Today, LLMs have tool calling sort of built into them, but that was not always the case. And the tool calling that's built into them is basically an API over top of what is essentially a hack, I think. At the end of the day, like I was saying, I'm just going to say it over and over again, LLMs don't know anything. We basically give them the rules to a game to play, and then they play the game, and that's it. Um, and that's what function calling is. We're basically telling it something that's untrue to imagine it can call tools, and then it thinks it can, and then uh, we leverage their ability to delude themselves into believing anything, and then we make it happen. So prior to tool calling being built into LLMs, this is how it was done. So first of all, you can give a system prompt, which is basically the beginning so you know how we have like the history. You can also give a system prompt, which is sort of like this ever-present sort of bit of text that the LLM can read and inform the way it does things. And so what we're going to say to the LLM, we're going to lie to it. And we're going to say, you can run tools by writing function call. I'm going to give it XML tags. This was like the popular way to do it back in like Claude 2. Um, you give it XML tag and then you call a function. And if you write this out, if you just like say these magic words, you're going to get a result. Of course, this is false. It doesn't know how to, it's not true. But we're going to tell it that it's true. And so this is how an LLM calls tools. It just writes it. And the next bit of thing that we do here is really, really important. So we have a stop sequence, and we just say, whenever we notice this, stop, just interrupt the whole generation process, and then get back to me. And what we're going to do is if the LLM does the super naive thing where it just writes these characters, we're going to interrupt it and we're going to search for it. So right in this case, I'm just looking for a function called check schedule. And if that's the case, I'm going to run my own check schedule. So like the LLM doesn't run this, I run it. And so it pretends to run it. I interrupt it. I actually run it, and I get a result. And then we just push that onto we push that assistant message with the result back on to the conversation history, and then we just call it again, and we just say continue. So this is really interesting as well. This is me programmatically typing continue as a user. So like there's a bunch of things that are like programmatically happening that are basically just a conversation of like user assistant. But in this case, I'm interrupting it when it pretends to do this thing that it really can't do. I call the result. I add the result onto the string. I then push this message on the result, and then I act like the user and I say, as a user, continue. The person who's actually doing this doesn't see any of this at all. And then it'll come back with the result. So like there, tool calling at the end of the day, it's still in this, like what we're showing here, it's still just conversation history, user assistant, user assistant. I'm just like doing this hack to inject my ability to call a real function on my computer and then giving the LLM that result as if the LLM did it, which it didn't do. At the end of the day, it's all a game. You define the rules and the LLM's going to play the game and you know write the text or whatever. So let's just see this works. So we'll do node. Should I drive and get some coffee? So let's just talk about the tool. The tool is check schedule, and it's just hard coded to say my schedule is I have a lunch with the CEO. So should I drive and get some coffee? Based on your schedule showing lunch with the CEO, this may not be the best time to drive and get some coffee. So this seems magical, right? Like this is like, oh my gosh, it's so intelligent and so smart. It isn't. It's just calling check schedule and then and then just continuing the conversation. So to really see what's going on here, um, I'm going to console.log, because there's a bit of back and forth that we don't see. So I'm going to console log the assistant message because this gets interrupted, right? At some point. I'm just going to copy this. So I'll do it again. So what you see is this is what it responded with. Let me check your schedule to help you make this decision. Function call, call schedule, and then that's where the stop token, the stop sequence happened. It actually wrote this. We stopped it because we recognize it's calling a function. We go ahead and call the function, and then we add that on. And so this was the result of the LLM. I think it would be even better for us to look at the way the chat history is being created. So I'm going to do json.stringify. So we're going to look at the history, the conversation history now. Should I drive and get some coffee? Okay, so let's take a look at this. So this was the first thing I sent. This is literally what I'm sending to the LLM. It's just an array of one thing which says, should I drive and get some coffee? The next one is, you can see, let me check if that's a good idea, function call, and then so this function call was like this. We stopped it because it wrote the ending function call. We called the function, we just added the result right here, and then we added a user message of continue. So this is the history, and this is all it is. This is the LLM. It's just working with this history. That's it. We're the ones doing the function call and doing the interesting stuff. We're just telling it to play this game where you pretend to make the function call and just trust that you'll get a real result. And we make that happen. And so given this history, it's able to give this really sort of interesting response. So prior to tool calls being sort of built into LLMs, this was how it was done. I don't know who figured this out, but whoever did is a genius. And it's just like the foundation to agentic coding. Um, and you don't need to do this stop sequence and all this sort of stuff anymore. It's all built in the LLMs, but this is where it came from. And it's really important to know that it's not magic. It's just text. That's all it is.